Welcome to the kitchen table where the champions of all budget decks battle it out in the gauntlet for bragging rights and most of all for your viewing pleasure. You can also join in the fun and win some prizes like the secret layer. The only thing you need to do is to predict who the winner will be of the next match and leave it in the comments below.
This match is between the soldiers and the living ant. Before we start, let's have a look at the decks. The white soldier deck is mainly built around preeminent captain. When he attacks, he can bring in big soldiers like Captain of the Watch and Lavinia of the Tent. This is a deck built around creatures like Aerial Responder, backed up by planeswalkers like Gideon, Blackblade and Berserker's, and Odric combos well with all the soldiers' abilities. Living Ant is a combo deck with a lot of cycling creatures in it. You cycle through your deck and get those creatures in your graveyard to then play a powerful spell like Electro Dominance or Finale of Promise to get Living Ant for free into play, getting all the creatures you cycled back onto the battlefield.
Fight!
Soldiers versus Living Ant. Let's have a look at the barracks first with this nice land from Jumpstart. Here is Preeminent Captain, our comboing soldier, and there's also a planeswalker called a Berserker's that looks like a pretty good hand for the soldiers to start. And now let's look at the Living Ant player. There's already an Electro Dominance and I also see a Living Ant, so the combo is online. We also see some land and there is also another legendary creature called Egon, God of Death. So Living Ant will start with a island. Soldiers, they will play a Glacial Floodplain, an island and a plains in one card. And 2 islands are tapped to cycle a Vile Manifestation, drawing a card back to the soldiers. Now they will play another plains from Jumpstart, and that's it. Soldier deck starts at turn 3 and we're at turn 3 for the Smoldering March with the Living Ant player. And she is tapping 3 mana for Ironcrag Pyromancer. And this 0/4 will deal 3 damage to any target whenever a second card is drawn. And with the cycling ability that will happen a lot. Meanwhile soldiers play Thalia Heretic Qatar. 3/2 first strike, but mainly it's going to be a target for the Pyromancer. So we head back to the Living Ant to see if Thalia is going to be barbecued. So first we will play a Throne of Death. That means we will mill at the beginning of each upkeep, getting more cards in the graveyard, getting more creatures in the graveyard for the Living Ant. Now the Pyromancer has drawn an extra card. There's a fish on the barbecue. And boom, there goes Thalia. And that was expected. There's another island and that means we have 2 more mana available for Waker of Waves. This one can be discarded. Look at the top 2 cards and one of them is going into the hand, one of them in the graveyard. There are 2 lands, but Tolaria West can transmute, so that will go to the hand of the Living Ant player. And we head back to the barracks, back to the soldiers. They draw a 4th land. And what are they going to do now? Here is the Enlistment Officer. It's a 2/3 with first strike and we're going to look at the top 4 cards. We see Lunarch Marshal, Captain of the Watch and Spire Patrol. 3 soldiers are added to the hand of the soldier player. They now have 8 cards, so that means at the end step they need to discard a Spire Patrol. And I like this play because what is in the graveyard often comes back when you play a Living Ant player. And this one will mill Horror of the Broken Lands. Draw a card. And that's a mountain. That will be played. And now for 3 mana we will transmute. And that means we will tap 3 mana. Then we will discard this Tolaria West. And we look for a card with an equal converted mana cost. And the Living End has mana cost 0. So we can search for a Living End. There we go. Living End number 2 in the hand of the Living End player. This looks really good for the Living End player. The combo is online. They're at 20 life. Back to the soldiers now. So they draw a card. They will play a land. And then let's see if they're going to attack. Or maybe they're going to play something first. 3 mana has been tapped. Will it be Basri?
Pleased to meet you. I will face this trial with courage.
Yes, Basri, you're a courageous planeswalker that can give creatures indestructible and also create some soldiers, but you will need this courage to deal with the Living End player. So Basri adds a counter to the enlistment officer, and the turn of the Living End player starts with a mill, and it's Ashiok.
I aspired for more.
Yes, soldiers, they dodged a bullet here because Ashiok can deal with graveyards. And the draw is a Space Godzilla, a Void Beckoner, another creature that can be cycled, of course. And that also means an extra card will be drawn for the Pyromancer. So the Space Godzilla is discarded, a card is drawn, and 3 damage.
Fall back!
So Basri is getting nervous. Only 1 loyalty left, but he can still add another counter because we head back with a life from a Tranquil Cove to the soldiers. And Basri can draw some inspiration of the god of Amonkhet, Oketra. Let's see.
Oketra's love is your shield.
Thank you, Oketra, for that +1/+1 counter on the enlistment officer. This one also has indestructible now. Now we still need to put a Death Touch counter on the 0/4. Won't really matter. 4 damage has been dealt. And are the soldiers going to play a follow-up? Because they can also play some nice combos with their deck. Here is the combo guy, Preeminent Captain, a 2/2 with first strike. And now we head back to the Living End player. First milling a card and then drawing a card. And it's a cycle card, so good news for the Pyromancer. So it's a Granitic Titan that the Living End player is moving to the right. Ready to be cycled. There we go. And so 3 damage to our Planeswalker with the best hair ever.
No one is enjoying this.
Yes, Basri, you are correct. Apart from maybe the Living End player. And they still have 3 mana open. But it's not really that dangerous for them at the moment. They can still play an Electro Dominance at instant speed. They're still going to cycle away another card to draw an additional card. So no more Pyromancer action, because that will only trigger with the second card drawn, and we head back to the soldiers now. Let's see what we can get out of the barracks this time. The draw is a mana producing diamond. But now we can see the Preeminent Captain in action, because when this guy attacks we can put into play an attacking soldier, and it's going to be Captain of the Watch, giving all the other soldiers +1/+1 and vigilance, and creating 3/1/1 soldier creature tokens. So all of a sudden the soldier army is there. They have woken up, but who's also awake is the Living End player. That's an Electro Dominance into a Living End. And that means all creatures on the battlefield, they are removed from the game, and the creatures in the graveyard, they come back, and look at the army that the Living End player has gathered. These are a lot of big creatures. Now there's one soldier that has an enter the battlefield ability, And that is of course the Spire Patrol. When it comes into play, we can tap a creature and it's going to be the Vile Manifestation that's tapped, a 0/4. Is the soldier player up to something because it's still his turn and there's still 6 mana available? And the Living End player took the bait of the soldiers because here is a stir command. Oh, all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater and all artifacts are destroyed. Leaving the soldiers with Talia, but leaving the Living End player with only the Vile Manifestation that can't untap. A brilliant play from the soldiers. They will take over the game for sure now. So now we head back to the Living End player. She is disgusted. What will she draw? Let's see. It's an Electro Dominance. Oh, this means the combo is back online. Now the Living End player, she is not doing anything. She just cleans up her graveyard. She passes the turn like she already surrendered to the soldiers. Because the soldiers, they now have another Captain of the Watch in hand to attack. Making Talia a 4/3. And there's 6 mana being tapped for the Captain of the Watch. The Soldier Lord that brings along 3 soldiers. Talia wants to attack, but the Living End player springs the trap. Here is Electro Dominance. 3 additional damage will be dealt to the face. And Living End cleans up the board once again, bringing back all those big wakers of waves, all those big creatures from the graveyard. Now there's still a lot of soldiers, like a Captain of the Watch with 3 soldiers coming back, a preeminent captain, he's also back from the soldiers. There's a Spire Patrol that's going to tap 1 creature of the Living End player. It's going to be a Space Godzilla, and there will be a trigger from the Enlistment Officer. Looking for a preeminent captain, a Loyal Qatar, and another Enlistment Officer. 1 card goes to the bottom. Soldiers with 5-6 cards in hand. But the Living End player has now the initiative. They draw a Solundi Vision, but they still have an enormous amount of power on the battlefield. With also the Pyromancer, and she will do some damage first because there is a Desert Cerodon being cycled. So that means 3 damage from the Iron Croc Pyromancer is going to the Captain of the Watch. So the soldiers, they lose their boost, they lose their morale, they need Okatra back. Because the power of a god is the only thing they can use to get rid of the army of big creatures that the Living End player has gathered again from the graveyard. Windcaller even will put some wings on our big whale. And that means we have a 7/7 flying creature. That's also demoralizing all the soldiers. So we will see a huge attack now from the Living End player, tapping all the big creatures. And let's see if the soldiers can survive. They will now do some blocking. They will gear up their soldiers to defend the barracks. Let's see if they can survive this attack. There is 1 creature already with menace. So this Granitic Titan demands 2 soldiers to block him. So 2 soldiers are going to block the Titan. And then there's the Horror of the Broken Lands. That's a 6/5 that also needs to be blocked. So another soldier token will be sacrificed. And then the Enlistment Officer will also do some blocking before the damage will resolve. There we go, soldiers to 7. and a lot of casualties. Now let's see if they can bounce back from this horrible second living end. Does Oketra still have a miracle up her sleeve? Soldiers untapped. I don't think they have drawn a card. Preeminent Captain is attacking. And of course he can bring along an attacking enlistment officer. So 2 attacking soldiers, the enlistment officer will trigger. We can look at the top 4 cards. We see Lavinia of the Tent among them. There's another preeminent captain. There's Talia, the lieutenant of Traben. So we're going to see first Odric Lunark Marshal, a 3/3 that takes over the abilities of other soldiers during combat. And then there's Talia's lieutenant, putting some counters on some other humans. So 2 humans get a little bit stronger. But still, the army of the Living Ant is there in full force. Living Ants player is going to play a Salundi Vision. Looking at the top 6 card for another instant or sorcery. I see some lands, some creatures, 1 more card. No, it's a miss. But I don't think they will need it. Because also Space Godzilla is now untapping. Living Ant player lining up the big creatures. And another land is the play. But now the big attack from the Living Ant player. 3 creatures can block. 6 big creatures are attacking. Basri's prayers to Oketra are not answered. Because these soldiers will bite the dust. And it will be the Living Ant player that takes this exciting game. And they will advance to the final.
Game over.
Now you can join our leaderboard too by predicting who will be the winner of the next match and leave it in the comments below. Now if you want some more information about the tournament series, check out the link here. If you need some help predicting who will be the winner of the next match, check out the deck tech videos. And remember,
always keep it casual.